We are so close to starting my 2JZ swapped Hellcat for the first time, but we're still missing some crucial components like a fuel system. We still need to install our FuelTech FT600 ECU and build a custom intercooler system centered around this beautiful piece of engineering from Racemotive. This piece is absolutely gorgeous. When Colin and Jeremy from Racemotive turned me on to this, I knew that I had to have it. And in person, it definitely lives up to the hype. Now we just have to figure out what modifications we're gonna have to make to get this to fit on our Hellcat. We've got less than 3 weeks until this car's debut with Racemotive on July 13th at Pocono Raceway. And you've got less than 24 hours to make sure you're entered for a chance to be there with me. But my partner for this build, Bling Sauce, saved the best for last with 50 times bonus entries on their 2025 Platinum Essentials kit. More details to come later in the video. So 2 changes that we know we're gonna have to make is the crash bar is gonna have to get modified in some way. Maybe we're gonna have to make a complete replacement, and then also this upper piece here is gonna have to get modified. It's broken anyway, which is fine because we're gonna end up probably hacking it here and hacking it here because our oil cooler is gonna go in that opening. So the thickness of our intercooler is just over 4 inches at the end tanks. And the way the crash bar is sitting right now, we don't even have 3 inches on the outside, which means it's gotta go. So now we've got a nice big open space to work with. I did take some measurements before we removed the bumper, so we already know that that little tab right there, it's gotta go. Got this thing taped up to protect it as best we can, and pretty much after our first glance here, we know that we've got some more cutting. We need to be higher in the chassis, means that's gonna have to get cut. Maybe that's gonna have to get cut. Definitely some of that's gonna have to get cut. So conveniently, we've got another Challenger here that we can reference without putting the bumper on and off our car a bunch of times. Really what we're trying to figure out is the exact spacing here, which is part of the reason why we left that ducting piece on there. We know that we need to get the intercooler centered into this opening here, and in order to do that, it's going to have to come up a significant amount, and our oil cooler needs to live in this grill opening right here. So we're just getting some basic measurements to figure out exactly what we can use as reference. So basically 2 inches down from that point right there is all you see. So if you come across, I said that we needed to modify the bottom corner here. None of this is visible through the grill opening. So we can take a good bit out of this and it's never going to be seen with the aesthetics of the front end. So our other variable to take into consideration is our depth. This oil cooler isn't nearly as thick as the intercooler, which means that we don't necessarily have to cut this here. We can cut it back here where this will still have a nice finished look through the front bumper opening. I think our horns are gonna have to get relocated as well. So despite Tim's best efforts, I think he pretty much managed to nail this cut. Now we've got a spot for our Improved Racing oil cooler to sit, and we just have to figure out how to make the Racemotive intercooler fit under it. That's good. That's real good. So 2 out of the 3 pieces that we need to fabricate in the front end are rough mocked up. Our crash bar completely level, and the nice thing is that we just gained all that space for the intercooler to sit behind it. Our mounts for the intercooler are going to secure to this, and then our oil cooler is going to hang right above it, but we needed this in place as well, so that way we know how all the spacing is going to lay out. We'd really like to run this lower grill and not have to make any significant modifications, but we do need a little bit of space behind it so that the intercooler sits nice and flush. So I think we're gonna have to trim the bumper and then bring the bottom of the grill out a little bit so it still retains the factory look, but it fits our intercooler. I love sometimes when I say one thing and then throughout the design phase, completely change my mind. This intercooler behind the front bumper looks just absolutely ridiculous, and I don't think that I can cover it up. Plus the fact that I think if we don't cover it up with the grill, it's going to eliminate a lot of complication. In order for us to have any shot at having a functioning air conditioning system, we're gonna have to bring the intercooler much further forward, which I don't mind cutting into the bumper to do, but the further forward we come, the harder it's gonna be to make the grill look good. On top of that, we're gonna have 3-inch intercooler pipes that come out and fill this opening here, so I really think that it's gonna look best if we just don't run the grill. Well, we're not gonna run most of the grill. This upper section here is a solid piece. It doesn't have the honeycomb. So I think if we come through here and cut across, it'll give us a nice finish edge on the top.
I have one question. You watched Too Fast, Too Furious lately? Tokyo Drift? Any of those? Is that a no?
I'm just not even gonna indulge you, Carrington.
I actually watched the first one last night.
Now we know why the grill's out. Now we know.
I watched the first one last night.
Do you make super noises like sitting in your living room chair?
Yeah.
No turning back now.
Piece of cake.
Nailed it.
More angle.
So first test fit here, and we didn't do half bad. There's a little bit of finish work just to completely straighten that edge, and we need to get a little bit deeper over here on the end. Probably gonna have to do some additional cutting for the intercooler piping, but the overall look, I think, is pretty darn good. This is the only area that I really want to kind of hide. Obviously, the intercooler completely fills up the center opening, but the giant intercooler pipe over here should do a really, really good job. And with that, our intercooler is mounted at least roughly. We're kind of using these rubber isolators as spacers more than isolators, but I don't think we have a ton of concern about this thing getting twisted up too much the way that we have it mounted. We still do have to make the oil cooler mounts and the lower mounts to support the intercooler, but at least where we are right now, we can put the bumper on and put this thing on the ground. Well, this is definitely a little bit of a different look than how I originally planned this car out, but I'm digging it. It's got a wild look to it, and I think once we get the intercooler piping in place, it's really gonna have a nice finished look. If you want your car to have its best look, then the 2025 Platinum Essential Kit from Bling Sauce is definitely for you. It includes Bling Sauce best automotive products so you can get professional results with amateur efforts. The Speed Sauce, an anti-static fast detail spray. The Interior Sauce, an all-surface interior cleaner with UV protectant. The Wheel Sauce, citric-based wheel cleaner tough on brake dust. The Tire Sauce, natural look tire shine with no greasy sling. The Fusion Sauce, a blend of 4 premium waxes for the latest in wax technology with no downside. And a sample of the Secret Sauce, a DIY ceramic hybrid spray coating, plus a pack of microfiber towels and an applicator sponge. And the 2025 Platinum Essentials Kit gets you 50 times bonus entries to come race with the entire Scraplife crew on July 13th. If you're feeling up to it, you can even do a ride along in any of the cars we'll be racing that day, which includes the 2JZ Hellcat and Lee's Panther Pink Demon 170 or Fernando's Hellcat Swap 350Z.
I use Bling Sauce to keep the 350Z shiny and all my cars. I personally love their products. Results are awesome. Don't forget to follow the link in the description. That way you can be with us July 13th.
The contest is free to sign up. All you need is an email address to give yourself a chance to come race with the Scraplife crew with your travel and hotel expenses for the weekend paid for by Bling Sauce. But if you want to increase your chances, the 2025 Platinum Essential Kit gets you 50 times bonus entries into the contest, as well as 5 times bonus entries on anything else on blingsauce.com. And don't forget to use my promo code SCRAPLIFE20 for 20% off your purchase. The contest ends at the stroke of midnight on Saturday, June 21st, with the winner to be announced the following week. So if you want that winner to be you, make sure you're signed up.
Where did I show him that? 2 cuts. Yeah, so first we're going to cut this one shorter than that.
Good idea.
Shorter than that. Now, I'm going to cut this pipe long. Super professional.
Look good to you?
Yeah.
Looks good to me. So the goal for intercooler piping is always to get where you're going with as short and direct a route as possible and avoid sharp angles as much as possible. So as quickly as you can get to 90-degree angles, the better. We have a 90-degree that comes out of the intercooler, and then we have a 90-degree that turns up. Really the only odd angle on the cold side of the intercooler piping is going into the throttle body, which you saw us map out in video number 2. Basically, we have that angled so it just shot straight down. So everything that we were working with on this side was direct 90 degrees, and then we just had to find a spot for the blow-off valve and the IAT sensor, which is tucked right up there above the frame piece. On the hot side of the piping, we have another borrowed component from my rotary RX-7 because that's where the turbo came from. This piece was previously fabricated for that setup, but we are going to weld directly to the end of this, so we need to get rid of the bead roll.
I didn't fabricate this, and I hate this piece.
So despite Tim's hatred for this piece, it does give us a great starting point and saves us some time and money. So just like the cold side, we're looking to get this pipe to point straight down as directly as possible, and then from there we can build just using 90 degrees.
The reason I don't like that piece coming off the turbo is because it's a substandard bend angle. It's a 60 degree, where we're working with all 45s and 90s, and it just makes slight more complications.
So this hot side piping laid out just a little bit different than how we originally thought. This whole section here is pretty much the exact same, but this last 90-degree bend, we ended up being able to clock the turbo housing just a little bit differently, and that way we eliminated that 45 that was going to point straight down at the ground. The side is definitely a little bit tighter tolerances, but everything fit in here very nicely. The only thing that's left is to see how it looks with the front bumper on. My plan all along was to paint the charge pipes black, but seeing it all put together, the raw aluminum with the kind of the polished look, it doesn't bother me nearly as much as I thought. It really ties in with some of the other accents at the front end, but we're going to definitely have to do some more trimming to the bumper. It's getting forced down a little bit by the added piping now, so we'll go ahead, get that off, make our final cuts, and before I put it on for the final time, we have one more change here at the front end to make. Because this car's a Hellcat, it did come with the HID headlights, but I wanted something at the front end that would give me a little bit more of a custom look to match everything we have going on. So I picked up the Morimoto RGB headlight upgrade for the halogen headlight equipped Challengers. These are a massive upgrade as far as lighting output. So now I can get on the Morimoto app and pick a nice shade of purple that's going to match our intercooler and other accents in the engine bay. One of my favorite touches is that it retains the pass-throughs on the headlights, which we need on the passenger side. That way we can duct some fresh air over to the turbo. So we're running a very traditional wastegate spring setup on this, which means that our boost is dictated by how much spring pressure we have. So your general rule of thumb is 2 times your spring pressure. So if we want to run 35 pounds, we need to put roughly 17 pounds of spring into the wastegate. Now the caveat to that is the wastegate spring also dictates the minimum pressure, so we need to make sure that whatever boost we want to run on pump gas, we don't have too much spring in order for that to happen. Our MAC valve, which is fed boost pressure directly off the compressor housing and is controlled by the Fueltech FT600, which sends a pulse width modulated signal to determine exactly where between that 17 pound and 34 pound range we fall. After some setbacks in the last video with this fuel system, we're finally making some progress. For the fuel pressure regulator block off, we mistakenly assumed that it was supposed to be positioned like this, when after doing a little bit of research on the internet, It's supposed to go like that. Now, in our defense, the directions on Snow Performance website show a Hellcat version of this tank assembly, which is drastically different than the Scat Pack, so we're kind of figuring this out on our own. So convenient to hold it right there.
It's almost like it was meant for that.
So convenient. If only the instructions showed that. So now with that in place, we should be able to put this side of the tank assembly back together completely. The only other external piece that we have to attach is this block off for what used to be the original feed line when this was a returnless system. So the whole reason we're going through all this trouble is because we need a massive amount of fuel for the 2JZ. This setup has 3 Hellcat 525 pumps.
Yeah.
Perfect. I think your hand was in the way. You think you can redo that again with your hand not in the way? As best we can tell, because again, we don't have proper instructions, this should dump the return fuel exactly where they're intending it, so I think we're ready to button this thing up. So this fuel pump assembly has been really the only main kind of holdup that we've run into, and for it to seemingly be solved is a big relief. So really our only remaining question is how we are going to run these lines. We have a -10 AN feed line and a -8 return line, and the tank right now is spaced down 3/4 of an inch with some spacers that we made, and it's still not enough room to get the lines anywhere through, which means unfortunately we're going to have to do some cutting. So both our feed and return lines come out of the hat and are going to run under the rear seat for a short period of time and then pass through that hole we just cut in the body. After our lines come out through the body, they essentially follow the e-brake cable routing along the bottom side of the car, where then they ultimately make their way up into the engine bay. So the only junction we have on the feed line is our Radium Engineering fuel filter, which has 100 micron filter in it and is -10 hose sizing all the way through. On the return side of the fuel system, we didn't really have any additional space in the engine bay for our fuel pressure regulator, so we needed to find somewhere out of the way but still accessible that we could mount it. After making a quick bracket, we found a nice little home for it under the access panel to fill the brake fluid. That way we have quick, easy access if we need to make a change to the fuel pressure. Our return line comes from the fuel pressure regulator to our E85 flex fuel sensor and then all the way back to the tank. Whether the E85 flex fuel sensor is on the feed or the return line is up for debate. Supposedly, it's more accurate of a reading when it's on the feed line, but you run the risk of having a pressure drop due to the restriction that it causes. From my understanding, basically, as long as the tuner knows where it is and takes that into account when they're tuning the car, normally you're in good shape. Now, I do need to secure the fuel lines up to the chassis just a little bit better, but I ran out of the 1-inch clamps. Luckily, this will be good enough for us to do our first start. Of course, after we fill it with fuel, put oil in it, put coolant in it, and run our checks on the FuelTech FT600. One thing we definitely need to start the 2J Hellcat for the first time is a clutch and flywheel assembly. That way our starter has something to engage to get the motor turning. And the reason that we didn't do that initially is because we were missing this piece, the probably smallest component of this whole deal, but it's the first one that goes on. The pilot bearing, this setup needs one specifically designed to fit over the T56 Magnum input shaft, but also inside the crank for the 2JZ. And now with that taken care of, we can do what we should have done from the start. We are using ARP hardware for our flywheel assembly, and these require 2 different types of lubricant. It has the ARP, I believe it's called Ultra Torque on it, which keeps the torque, we'll call it even. That might be the easiest way to describe it. Keeps the bolt from binding into what it's being fastened, and then also we have some blue Loctite on there to keep these things from backing out.
Fun fact about the 2JZs, the Loctite on the threads of the bolt also seals oil from getting past the bolt from the inside of the engine.
Disc number 1, floater plate, torque to 25 foot-pounds. Clutch disc number 2, and our pressure plate. So as you might be able to discern from the logo on this clutch, this is the RXT 1200, which is supposed to be rated to right around 1200 horsepower. But now comes the most important part of the entire trans install. The spacing for the slave cylinder needs to have an air gap for right around 1/8 of an inch once everything is installed, which means we need to take 2 measurements, figure out our difference to determine our air gap before installation.
I'm good. That arbitrary placement, dead on. Seriously. So 62.21, I don't know why I wrote that backwards. 65 minus 62.21 is 3 point, I don't know, something. 2.8-ish. And we're shooting for between 2.54 and 3.8 millimeters. So we're on the skinny side, but
Gucci.
done it a couple times.
So the only thing that you need to keep in mind when doing the measurements on these slave cylinders that thread on is that the threads are tapered. So on the side that we showed on camera measuring is actually the short side, and this side measures a little bit longer. So you want to take the average of the two, and that's going to give you what it is right in the middle. So we rotated this just a little bit differently, went ahead and locked it in so it can't move once we install it, and now we're ready to go into the car.
That was fun.
Now, as long as we made this measurement correctly, our custom drive shaft from Precision Shaft Technologies should fit great.
And it does, because we're geniuses.
Nailed it. This drive shaft from PST is absolutely gorgeous. It uses a Granis Racing 1350 front joint, and then the rear joint is made by Sonax, and it's designed to adapt from the Hellcat differential to a 1350 joint. And then this is a 4-inch aluminum drive shaft, which in the chassis just looks absolutely massive. So no matter what you've been told before, 4 inches is pretty big. Now, we did have a slight oversight with the drive shaft hardware. The factory bolts that we planned on reusing are designed for a much larger OEM flange. Luckily, a quick whiz wheel solved our problem. We're inching closer to that first startup, and now we can power up the Fueltech FT600 and start checking our systems. One of the first things that we know we're going to have to do is calibrate our throttle body to our ECU and also to our pedal. I hear fuel pumping.
Raise the fuel pressure.
Fan test.
Nothing.
Yeah, I heard a click over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I heard a click from the fuse box. Yeah,
Okay.
function, so.
So the fan is PWM. So relay on doesn't mean anything. I have to configure the pulse width modulated signal to the fan to make it actually work.
Starter circuit test. What? No function.
I'm new, I don't know what to do. So the starter should kick if I jump pins 87 and 30 on the relay, which means that I connected something wrong inside the fuse box.
Oh.
Yeah, so. My bad.
Tim's temporary starter.
Yeah, you know, it works.
Little janky looking wire. With Cody from Fueltech logged in, we were able to figure out a couple other things, including the fan, which is now functioning properly.
It's to a point, like if we want to try to spit it over, see if we get RPM or like anything really.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Nothing to it but to do it.
What's she need?
More fuel.
More fuel?
Well, I just watched the engine start fueling go up.
All right, temp number 2 with more fuel. It's so close. More throttle and more fuel?
Yeah, I can smell the fuel.
You can smell fuel already?
Yep.
Okay. Give this a shot.
Here we go.
Should have used corn.
I figured pump would make it easier.
I know. Yes, you're right.
Pump is harder because it's just easier to foul plug, like on a new motor.
Oh, dang it. Oh, well, I would have just put some E in it then. I just thought it was going to be harder.
I would much prefer it on ethanol.
Dang it.
Wow. I really didn't expect that. I was just, giving you a hard time for putting pump in it. Plus, it stinks, comparatively.
All right, one more try tonight before we have to check some things. That sounded closer. So this morning we got a couple things fixed, and if you can't tell by my face, one of them was extremely exhausting. And you're gonna see more of that in the next video because I just don't have the energy to put it into this one. But we've got Cody back on the line. Tim was able to fix our starter issue. It was in the fuse box, as simple as just moving a different wire. The wire that we were using previously didn't have enough, I guess, amperage to give us the hit that we needed. We're gonna give this thing another shot. Briefly.
That is quiet.
What was the oil pressure?
Like 120 psi.
Oh, really? Yeah. Got no leaks that I can see. These headlights are incredibly bright, but I think we're ready for another test. This is the quietest car we've ever built.
Yeah.
At this shop.
Kind of weird considering it's a Hellcat. And it's got a super engine. Normally,
Yeah, it is smoking a little bit out the back now, Cody.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Fernando is getting smoked out at the photo section. Whoa, that is a problem. The cam gears moved. They were centered before.
What?
I saw one or two people comment about Loctiting these to keep them in place, and I guess back in the day on a previous version it was a big issue. I just thought that HKS would have addressed that by now.
Yep.
Now with our latest problem addressed, let's see what happens here. Oh wow, super high oil pressure. That's a good thing.
Oh yeah. It's crazy how good it runs when the cam gears are like that. Isn't it? Like if it's smart.
That's important, right? Yeah. I don't feel like it sounds like a 2J back here.
We cut the mufflers off.
No, it sounds great quiet.
All right now. You know what this reminds me of? A V6 Challenger. Yeah.
You mean a 6-cylinder Challenger is what? Nah, straight 6.
The SXT model.
Well, the joy of this thing starting for the first time is being overshadowed by whatever that is. Yep, there's not supposed to be oil there. Ugh. Why? 2025.
Mic was off.
What?
Yep.
Yeah, just don't go hitting nothing. Jeez.
I regret my tool choice here. Oil from getting past the bolt. That was terrible.
You said the same thing.
No, I know. I said the opposite.
Yeah, well,
I said the opposite.
You said, yeah, threads. Yeah, that's why.
Right.
All right. You're in a lazy.
Welding position.
Yeah, you're in a lazy boy.
Great.
3, 2.
I was on one for that one too.
Yeah, we was on, but you hand me the camera we're recording. You set me up on that.
Maybe you can get it right this time. That'd be great.
Sure.
We're on a timeline here, Tim. All right, hurry up.
Oh shit!
Like the timing of clutch disc number 2 and then the slap of slapping it on was pretty on point.
Expert.
You're fired. All right. Insert the Trump thing there.
Pull Carrington over here and unscrew the same thing and screw it back in a bunch of times.
Yeah. So this never got tightened. I know. I wish I would have known that when I was just up again.
USA.
One take.
I mean, I did kind of do it in one. I was trying to get another.
We're still losing.
You can get professional results with amateur efforts. Yeah, one take, Carrington.
There you go.
One with a 0 after.
Just act like you're doing shit until I'm done talking, basically. Like, you know. Now, in our defense...
This is where the end thing. Hold on. What am I supposed to do with this? I don't know what to do. Let's see.
Or Fernando's Supercharged 350Z. Dang it, Hellcat.
Haircut! It's haircut! You got it! Oh, it was so close! Yeah! Oh my...